Good morning, everybody. It is Saturday,
You look at me like I'm the walking calendar.
I'm not sure what the date is. It's got to be like the 20th or something.
21st.
21st. It's
Yes.
Saturday, May 21st. And it is time for your next installment of Toilet Talk with Dina Lynn. Here she is.
Hey, here I are. Yes, it is May 21st. And
Yeah, so much a month. That's right, a month before.
It's a month before our wedding anniversary of 4 years ago. And
4 years.
yeah, there's been a lot. We've had many different designations for what we are to each other over the 8 years we've known each other. So
8.5 years.
8.5 yeyears. I was just looking through my Facebook memories, as I am wont to do, and then I quote myself, as I am wont to do, because I want to. And I came upon a post that I wrote a month before our wedding, 4 years ago, in which I was talking about how I met this guy. So interesting timing, because as we were reflecting earlier upon what should we do for our toilet talk, I thought maybe it's time to talk about our relationship and the different stages that we've gone through. So we're fixing to do that right now.
Fixing. Like in the South, fixing. So to all you in the South that hate my accent, I'm sorry.
Bless your heart. All right, so let's see. Where should we go? We were both previously married to others.
Yes,
also
twice on my end. Twice. Yeah.
Twice on his end, once on mine. And my marriage was for 25 years and had 8 children. And Robin had 2 previous marriages and a total of 3 children from that. So we have been prolific humans. We have done our part to contribute to the generations. And I left that marriage in 2010 and 11. It took me, there was a period of extrication. And when did you leave your, it was longer ago for you.
Well, let's see. My first marriage essentially ended about a month and a half after it started. Back in 1994, 95, and then my second marriage ended. Let's see. Girls are 22.
Yeah.
So turning 23. So that would have been basically 20 years ago. So 2002.
Yeah.
2002 is when my second marriage entered the throes of its ending.
Yeah.
So.
And we don't need to go into all of that.
Yeah, lots of stuff with that.
But
So
we had some experience between us, and I had a relationship that ended badly after my divorce, and I was rebounding, and my thing was I would meet someone on Facebook, and then I would go fly to meet them, and I was working my way around the globe slowly. And my sister and a friend of mine said, "Oh, for God's sake, do a local dating ad and find someone in your own zip code." And
at least
time zone, right? At least time zone, if not zip code. So I did that when I got on OkCupid, because it was free and yet not as down in the dregs as things like Plenty of Fish. I mean, there's so many options now. I can't even. I'm dating myself by talking about the dating ad I wrote. And
Wait a minute. Whoa. I'm just finding out that she's cheating on me.
With myself.
With herself. What the fuck?
It's legal in Oregon to date yourself now, so go for it. All things are legal in Oregon first.
This is so undignifying.
Very undignified. Well, I'm sitting on a toilet describing our relationship. I think we threw dignity. We flushed dignity down the drain a while back. This is like the 10th episode, so we have firmly established ourselves as thoroughly undignified humans. You just have to own it.
And that describes our relationship for the last 8.5 years.
There you go. Completely undignified. Yes. um, I wrote an ad, and it was kind of angry. It was kind of, all right, here I am. I dare you to match me. And I said things like, if you don't know what Maslow's hierarchy is, and if you don't know the definition of sapiosexuality, don't even write to me. And as many women find out, when if you're even remotely attractive and you can compose a sentence, if you put out a dating ad, you're going to be swamped by all kinds of people, most of whom you don't even want to write back, but I kind of felt obligated. And so I was trying to keep up with the responses. And there was one guy who wrote to me who stood out. He was intelligent, he was funny. Um, oh, we can be. It was him. It was, yeah, yeah. And what was your opening line?
Oh God, I don't remember.
It was something like the voices in your head ganged up on you
Oh, right.
and told you that you had to write. It was engaging, humorous, funny. There was a lot to this guy, but I was already seeing someone else. In fact, I was ending my time on OkCupid to actually explore a relationship with this guy. But he kept evaporating on me.
The other guy, not
the
me.
other guy, the other guy. So Robin had said that he wanted to be in my life. He had this. He said he was inexplicably drawn to me. I thought, oh, excellent use of a big word, and he wanted whatever I could give him, whatever role I could give him in my life. He wanted to be connected. So we met. I was helping someone to paint their house, a Victorian house. I was painting trim, and he suggested, rather than just pay me, he also wanted to reward me by, in fact, he was the guy who suggested I do the dating ad because he knew I was flying all over the place. And he invited me to go out to dinner with him to celebrate the painting job that I had done in his house. And Robin was a contractor. See, I wanted to find a way of making money, but in Oregon you have to have a license for anything to do with remodeling, construction, etc. And I didn't have that, nor the insurance. Robin, as a business owner, had that, but he wanted to check out my work first, so he came to check out my work. Do you want to add anything?
Well, I mean, we were spending a lot of time on just the first dating ad, so I was like, well,
True.
we're not going to get a lot to.
True.
Well, I guess we're only like.
It may have to be a two-parter.
I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, Dina was intelligent, articulate, engaging, interested in doing more than just dating. She wanted to continue to learn. She was very curious about life, about experiences, about people.
Inner space.
Inner space. And I was, I was this guy coming out of two different marriages, multiple different relationships, not having found anybody who was really responsible to themselves and to the relationships in a way that accepted responsibility for any part of their spot in the relationship and how it either succeeded or failed. And I wanted to find somebody who was interested in growing and finding out why things weren't working and continue to make it work. And this lady here met that bill, and we both came into it with the idea that, God damn it, we've got our shit together. We're ready for somebody else who has their shit together.
We did. We actually said that. Yeah. I pretty much said that in my dating ad, and he showed up saying, done my work. And he wanted someone who was willing to do their work, and I wanted someone who could match me in the work I had done, and I knew it was going to take a partnership. I had gone through codependency, I had gone through a stage of independence, and I really wanted to explore interdependence, and that requires a partner and someone who wanted to be serious, not just date, not just have a fun time. Oh, that's great, I wanted that too, but I wanted to be able to go deep with someone. So he showed up, and we both felt like, oh my God, we hit the lottery, because we had so much chemistry and connection and seeming clarity about where we went, all the C's. and commitment. We were talking about moving in together rather quickly, and we did. We moved in together after 6 months of knowing each other, and we were talking about a wedding. What would all of this be like? Who would we invite? And it was mostly joking, but we were both looking for something long term and intense and safe, and yet also exploratory. So, as many of you are already anticipating, shit hits the fan after that initial honeymoon stage, and it did for us.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly after moving in, we began to bump into each other's stuff, shadows, unexplored, unresolved wounds, and trauma triggers. Same stuff that's under the surface. And it looked and felt like it was falling apart. And that went on for the better part of that first year that we lived together. Oh, it just hit 11/11.
Oh, I thought there was something wrong. It's like, oh, wow.
No, the number 11/11
No.
is significant to me about relationships, and it was just funny that. So we got into some coaching. We tried to get some help for this because we loved each other. Throughout all of this time, we never stopped loving each other. But the conflict that was happening and that we couldn't resolve, and we didn't even understand why is this happening. And I don't think I was willing, ready, or able to do some of the deeper diving that our relationship was causing the reaction within me. I don't think I was. I would have thought I was. I would have told you I was. I would have said, it's not me. I've got my shit together. What's going on? And what were you thinking? What was going on for you at the time?
Well, I mean, very much, the same thing. I was frustrated by, we had been, so many things coming up all at once. So we had been working with coaching, and Dina had been bringing home different techniques and modalities to deal with conflict and communication. One of them called dieting, very shortly into her coming back from a retreat after we moved in together. And we were engaging on these levels and trying to learn ways in which we could go about having confrontational conversations without the unhealthy triggering and reactivity that came from all the stuff that we were trying to cover, both internally and between, internally and individually, as well as together and between each other. And I was just constantly frustrated by trying to use these techniques and not feeling like I was giving Dina what she needed, which was deep understanding, compassion, and empathy as she's trying to face and communicate the struggles she's having with me, or patterns that I have, or stuff that she was feeling, or then communicating back what it was like for me to try to be there for her and it not being recognized, and then also trying to communicate what was going on for me and that also not being recognized. So it was really difficult for both of us.
We were being pretty much hijacked by our own scared, hurt, sad, lonely inner children, and then trying to communicate in these adult bodies while having our brains hijacked by these screaming children. And that's a really difficult way to try to resolve anything. And long story short, many things happened that were painful and difficult, and we ended up breaking up May 24th of 2015, and shortly after that I moved out back into this very house that we're in right now, which I had lived in when we met. So it was weird coming back full circle, but we were still close friends. We were being trained in shamanism together. We were part of Salem Playback Theater, which is a storytelling improv theater troupe. So we were doing deep things, and our goal was to face that, okay, if we're not compatible because of the obvious conflict, then let's help each other get over each other and move on. And we wondered who would be the first to move on, and I tried, and that didn't work, and nothing even materialized. And we eventually, after a period of about 5-6 months, found ourselves drifting, connecting together again. The love was still there, the attraction was still there, the history was there, and evidently our souls were still in cahoots. So we recognize we are partnering, maybe we're partners. And then the next chapter was pretty much that, being living separately and being partners together. Is there anything you want to say about that period of time?
Well, I think so. One of the issues it's going to be this is going to be a difficult episode because there are so many interlacing pieces that affected our relationship and continue to work underneath the surface of what both of us were going through individually. That that it's hard to like put into perspective all the things that were happening that led into that were the effects of what our relationship was, and both how it fell apart and came back together and did that several times. And one of the things for me that I think was really difficult is I was trying to, God, how do I put it? I'm not even sure. Um,
You were discovering who you were and what you wanted.
there were a lot of pieces of myself that was about discovering who I was, and one of the biggest pieces was learning that I had a lot of people pleasing behaviors and habits. And one of the first pieces that I pulled out of recognizing that space was that I didn't know how to get my needs and wants met because I didn't even know what they were.
Right, you weren't allowed as a child
Well,
to know. You had to please everybody else.
Well, I didn't have to, but that's the habit that I pick up for whatever reason.
Right.
So what that looks like is it looks like somebody who goes out of their way to do things for others that they want or need, even if they don't know that they want or need them. So it's about reading somebody's wants and needs and desires and making that happen with the expectation, subconscious expectation, that of course if that's the way that you show love to these people because you care so much, they're going to do that for you in return. And it's essentially bass backwards, and it's a subtle form of manipulation.
And that's hard to face.
And that was really hard to
You see
face.
yourself as someone who gives to others all the time to realize, oh, I have an ulterior motive here.
Right. So the next progression from that was this belief that if somebody gave me something, that obviously must be what I wanted and needed because they were they were anticipating my wants and needs better than I would. And so what I started discovering is, first of all, I didn't know what I wanted or needed. I couldn't even answer the question when I asked it. And that means that I was never satisfied in any relationship that I had because I wasn't actually working towards my own needs and goals because I couldn't recognize them. And so in and amongst through all of this, while we were trying to communicate our wants and needs, our desires, our frustrations, our angers, our triggers, our traumas, I was struggling with not feeling like my needs were met. And one of the ways that was coming out sideways was essentially emotional and, in one case, physical infidelity. I wasn't present to Dina 100% of the time because I was like trying to get my needs met. I was trying to feel loved. I was trying to feel appreciated. I was trying to feel wanted. And that wasn't something that felt like was consistent in my life. And that bore a really difficult effect on our relationship for the better part of 6.5 years.
That's the first time I think I've connected the dots between you being completely out of touch with yourself and what you wanted and needed, and the ways in which you went looking for it, that sort of desperate search for maybe like if I couldn't give it to you by reflecting back your wants and needs, maybe somebody else could. When all the time nobody could.
Well,
It had to be with yourself.
it was never a matter of either or. It was a matter of, yeah, I mean, yes, yeah,
Well, that's just the first
yeah,
time
yeah,
I've
yeah, yeah,
seen it in that way.
right.
And yeah, it was painful to me to feel like you were there, but you weren't all there.
Right.
And that your mind, your heart, your passion, your interest could be on someone else, someone. But in a sense, they were symbols
Hmm.
of what you were looking for in yourself.
They were symbols of lack within
Yeah.
myself, yeah.
The looking for love in all the wrong places,
Hmm.
looking for self-love
Right.
in all the wrong places. And anyway, there's more to this, but yeah, it was inordinately painful, those times of knowing the potential in this man, knowing what he was capable of. That when we met and fell in love, that initial rush, I don't believe for a minute that when we fall in love, we are showing a persona, a mask to that person. I believe we get radically raw and revealing. We become soul exhibitionist and we let that person in, but that becomes so terrifying to stay at that place that the defenses come up and then the shit hits the fan and all of that. But I knew what was in him, and so the pain, the agony of wanting to connect with that part of him, and not knowing how to get there, how to go there, and knowing it wasn't something I was lacking, but the feeling of the disconnection. It didn't feel like an indictment that something was wrong with me, that this wasn't happening. And I don't say that out of a sense of egotism. There was just this awareness that it's,
There was a lot more underneath the surface than
yeah,
met the eye.
and how to do that. For me, it wasn't, oh, I must not be pretty enough, sexy enough, smart enough, all those things. It was, why can't I activate this in him to help him find himself so that he can be fully present to himself, and also we can connect. And but I couldn't see then were the ways in which I had to do more of my own self-exploration. There was the entire realm of the shadow that I hadn't even tapped into experientially yet. I knew about it, I hadn't done my business there. So all of this pain was going on, all of this confusion about was our relationship going to survive? There was the question of, was Robin or wasn't Robin polyamorous? Was his attraction to other women an indicative of that? And I knew I was monogamous, but not like I inherited the thing. I explored how I'm wired, and I knew this was my primary, deepest way of relating. And the relationship was in limbo a few years ago. Were we or were we not going to continue? When one day, in this very room,
Was me sitting right here.
well, right there.
Oh, right there.
He was sitting right there.
That's true. I
yes,
was.
Yes. And we had just had a weekend away. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of connecting. There was a lot of emotions. And we came back, and I had to rush to get ready for a paint party.
And I looked at her. I said, I can't possibly imagine not having you in my life. And I believe tears were rolling down my face at the time.
Yes. And then the second part, which rhymed, he did this Dr. Seuss thing. It was I can't imagine you not being in my life, and I can't imagine going forward without you as my wife. And I hear this bit of poetry coming out of his mouth. I'm on the toilet, just like this. He's on the floor.
Hey, shit gets real on the toilet.
Yes. And he went as far as to say, I'm not proposing right now, but this is where I'm going. And now I had worked really hard over the past few months of realizing this whole relationship could fall apart. It could be we are ultimately not compatible, but I'm going to love him until such a time as that becomes clear. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, after me getting my business and my life together to the point that I was good with me, here he is proposing. I'm like, I think my reaction was, let's see if you still mean it in a week. Because
Yes,
I
yes,
was
that was
quickly.
literally what she said. It's like, are you going to mean this in a week? It's okay. I understand. I really appreciate the sentiment, and I love that you said it. But let's just see where things
Yeah,
end up in a week.
yeah, because my life was finally getting good by my own efforts, and I had to do that. And apparently, that's
Yes,
incredibly attractive to
yes.
like get your shit together.
Sugar mama. I'm still waiting on her to deliver some of it, but
Yeah, he wants me to be financially independent and overflowingly abundant, so that he can be my perpetual cabana boy and all that fun stuff. But we have not arrived. That's a future chapter, if
right.
at all, if at all. But yes, anyway, we did end up getting married. We went through a lot. There was a lot in the engagement period, a lot of negotiating about friendships outside of the relationship, and how to have this container of our relationship. And we were so naive and didn't know. We were naive about our naivete, pretty much. And we got married on summer solstice at 11:11 in the park. It was a potluck. We invited everybody. It was a cheaply done, spontaneous, fun wedding. My dress was under $15. I still have it. It was great. Four officiants, including my eldest son and our former coach, and
Our shamanic
our
coach.
shamanic director, and our theater director, and our theater troupe was there, and they did improv. They played back our story for us, and it was a really beautiful time. And we moved into a house that was supposed to be so wonderful, cozy. Um, we gutted it, we painted it, we were renting it, and it felt like idyllic. Um, there was so much potential, so much promise, so much excitement about this next chapter of our lives. And then I'll let you talk about the next thing that happened, or if you're not aware of what the next thing is that is pertinent,
Well, again, part of it goes back to the emotional infidelity that I was struggling with because that hadn't gone away. Uh, I was still reaching out to try and get validation, but I was also trying to get past that to really discover how I could um, challenge my own limitations where I wanted to be more aligned with, more committed to, more
you
more
ached
healthy
for
for.
integrity. You
Yeah,
brought
I
that
was
up a lot.
for myself and for our relationship, and um, it was just this constant internal battle to try and find what was, even with this level of commitment and exploration, what was holding parts of me back from
Right.
being able to be completely present, because it wasn't like I wasn't committed to Dina, or that I didn't love her, or that I didn't need her, or feel amazed by her in my life. But there were things that were happening for both of us that were coming up
Yeah.
that was, um, some of the stuff was just really tiny, but it was like, that grain of sand
Mm-hmm.
in your sock, that small little pebble, and it was just wearing and wearing and wearing and wearing and wearing, you know.
There was a lot that came up pretty quickly after the honeymoon. Robin's first grandson, also my grandson, was born shortly after the honeymoon, and that wasn't, I wouldn't call that tumultuous, but it's a big life chapter for something like that to happen. And there were some financial issues that came up pretty quickly. Um, we had 6 weeks to file the wedding license. We completely intended, when we got married, to legalize everything. And there were some issues that came up. Robin had some struggles with some financial issues in the past, and he was still working through them, reckoning with them, coming to terms with them. And there was a sense of shame about them, so he hadn't brought them to me. He was hoping they would resolve with some outside income. That also fell through, unfortunately. There were a lot of things that we were hoping would naturally resolve, and they didn't. So we had to make the hard decision of not legalizing the marriage because of connecting. In Oregon, you become responsible for all debt that happens within the relationship, not what happened before. And there were some things that had to still be resolved. So we put legalizing the marriage on hold. It was a painful decision to make, but we also recognized we were married on a heart and soul level, and the legalities were about the state. But it was still hard. It was still, that was a
Well,
painful thing.
it's a very symbolic thing, and symbolism. There's the literal level of
Yeah.
reality and the symbolic level of reality, and that's important to both of us. Um, uh, and but even knowing even knowing that the difficult decision was there, and we decided not to go through with it, there was also a letdown that came with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was a huge letdown. It's like,
It was
okay, well, what did
energetically
we did
painful.
we did something wrong,
Yes.
right? It
Yes.
felt like a punishment
Like
and a
we were
sign that
we were pretending or cheating somehow because we had done this big public thing. We even, it was Facebook Live the whole way. We still haven't seen that. Anyway, we had to find it at some point. So that was one thing that was painful, and then I did make the discovery that Robin had been having conversations with other women that went beyond the boundaries of what we had agreed upon for our relationship, and that was very painful. And we had a series of, and these were, one in particular was an emotional infidelity. Others were conversations, but they were pushing the boundary of what was agreed upon, and so I felt betrayed, and angry and sad and scared, and what's real, and I wanted to get therapy. I wanted to get counseling. I knew better than to make a decision while in shock and in pain. And we kept hitting up against these unresolved issues, the conflict, the lack of trust, how to get trust back. What do we do with this? What's real? What's not? And I was in turmoil. We couldn't find a decent therapist. Oh my goodness, we tried. We kept trying. We went to the Gottman Institute.
Yeah, well, that was even before our marriage.
No,
I guess that was after.
that was
right.
after.
That was
Just before. It was like our last ditch effort before getting the final
And-
therapist.
And it wasn't, I don't think it was actually, I think that we had a couple of really decent therapists. I think the reality is that we, just like when we first got together, 6 years prior, we had thought we had done all our work and we were ready for something deeper.
Yeah.
I think we were in that same space, 2.5, 3.5 years ago.
It was bewildering.
Yeah,
It was like, what the hell is wrong here? We knew the tools. Why can't we make this work? Why do we have conflict after conflict after conflict? And it was like they were heaping up in the background. We were carrying around all of this burden of conflict, loving each other, but we couldn't connect on the place to resolve. I wanted the really good makeup sex.
Right. Well, and so here's the realization I'm making is that we were really, really, really good at looking at and helping each other discover where we needed to do each other's work.
Oh, yeah.
So we were really good at pointing, I would look at her and I said, this is what I need, this is what you're doing, you need to listen to me because this is what's not working for us. Or one of the things.
We were writing these things down for each other in a notebook that stayed on the back of the toilet, and we would write these back and forth messages. The book was entitled Disputed Passages. It was created from an ancient book, which...
Not ancient.
Well, okay,
yes,
old.
Anyway.
Old.
Yeah. So, we were really good, like I said, we were really good at pointing out what each other needed to do. And looking,
see our own stuff.
We were not looking at our own stuff. We just weren't. And that's where some of my shifts started to happen, was when I actually could start looking at the things that she was bringing up without shame and say, okay, it's time for me to look at this.
You got it.
Yeah. And the last, so...
Yeah, well, so 2020, this weird disease took off and became a pandemic, and I had to shut down my business. Robin was working away from home for mostly Monday through Friday. Um, the sense of isolation was thick. Remember in the beginning of the pandemic when we didn't know what was going on, how long it would last, were we going to die, were people we loved going to die? It was some people I loved to die, and Robin and I were we couldn't connect the way we wanted to, but we were all we had. The world got very small, and we were working with a therapist. We found someone who talked about wanting to go deep. I don't think he went deep enough, but maybe at that point he couldn't have. And the question he kept, or the statement he brought to each of us in our individual sessions was, when someone shows you who they really are, your job is to believe them. So I believed what Robin was showing me was someone who was just inherently incompatible with what I wanted and needed in a relationship. And I didn't want to hold him back from, I loved this man so much that I wanted him to know who he was, even if it cost me being able to relate to him. So if he really was designed to be polyamorous and to have more than one any relationship, I didn't want to say, no, please fake it just for me. That was, even though this was a wrenching thing. And he needed to do more exploring. So on June 1st of 2020, it was our final session with the session with our therapist, where we had to say, in lieu of a divorce, because we weren't legally married, and we were grateful at that point, we formally ended the relationship, and there was a measure of relief, but there was god awful grief, and just the beginning of the grief, really.
Yeah. And, it should be noted that, during this entire time, so we're working through the first year of this pandemic.
Yeah.
And like Dina said, we're both feeling very isolated. I'm working an hour and a half away, staying on the coast, on a large remodel project, and not home, not around. And I needed connection. Dina needed connection. We both weren't getting it, and even though our relationship was ending, and it was obvious that it was ending, I cheated on her. And I can't express my level of regret of the effect that had on what we were trying to do at the time, which was create as healthy a breakup as we could, amidst at times feeling like we couldn't even explain why we couldn't connect, even on the most basic level.
Yeah.
Going through this, we were so blind to what we were doing to each other. I was so blind to how I was acting inappropriately. I was so blind to my own needs still, after doing this 6 years of deep diving work, not to have the ability to even understand still my own needs and wants at being, 48 years old. And, I'm supposed to know who the hell I am at this point. I'm supposed to be a mature adult. You would think that I'd have a bigger clue about what was going on inside me. And it took making all of those mistakes and all of those bad choices to put myself in front of a mirror that was clear enough that I could, through isolation and regret and shame, it took that much for me to be able to start looking in the mirror at my own shadows.
Yeah.
And I don't know what Dina was suffering at that moment from, and where her heart was.
Well, I didn't know. about the infidelity for
Yeah.
2 months. Um, 1 day shy of 2 months later, I knew something. I knew something was going on. I can look back at my Facebook memories and see the post I was making around that time, and it was I. My intuition is sometimes weirdly, uncannily on without telling me exactly why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. But I knew something was going on, and I remember the day after when you were supposed to be coming home, your your personal reaction, you were nauseated. Your whole body was, you were telling me you had food poisoning or you thought you might have, and you didn't want me coming over to you in case this was, maybe COVID, a weird COVID symptom, because we weren't sure.
I was sick from the experience. I was literally ill from the
Your body
the
reacted.
bond, the pain, the yeah, the emotions uh, to what I'd done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a month before we officially broke up, or just shy of a month before. And when we ended things on the day that we ended things, a friend of mine on Facebook who had admired me or claimed to, hit on me pretty hard that day. He knew the timing, and he had been studying me for some time. I didn't know I was being cyber stalked, in a sense. To He knew exactly what to say, what I needed to hear about the promise of this committed monogamous relationship. And I didn't know then. To me, it looked like, oh, the universe is providing immediately. Weird timing, universe, but like, okay then. And what I didn't know then was that I took all of my unresolved grief and longing for Robin, and which was now cut off, and I put it on this guy. I projected completely fantasy, fairy tale connection that had no existence. And I went into some of this in a previous vlog episode on my own about starter marriages and the twin flame, when people use that for emotional predatory connections. And yet the universe uses all things. So I got diverted into this other thing, and I ended up moving out once I discovered the infidelity. 2 months after it happened, I realized I had to leave. I was so angry, and there was so much pain, and I had to leave, and that put a significant rift in our connection. We had hoped to make this breakup, a big, beautiful, benevolent breakup. We even did a vlog post about that, and the betrayal was more than I could handle at the time. And I lashed into him big time. I didn't hold back. I don't even remember all that I said, but I know I can use my vocabulary and my anger like a weapon, and I did turn it on him, feeling completely justified for it, without understanding. I didn't even want to understand why or how he could do such a thing. There was no room for, let me hear your side of the story. There was just, you fucked me over, cut off. I was incensed, and I felt completely justified, and I was the wronged party, and it was pretty awful the way it all happened. And I moved out back here.
Well, I'm going to pause you right there.
Oh, is there an insert?
Yeah, there's an insert. So, it's interesting to recount some of these things, and the different kinds of perspectives that we come to, coming back to things. And certainly, none of what we're giving here is a complete recount. It would take 8.5 years to give you a complete recount of the last 8.5 years.
Yeah.
But here like she said, here we were trying to do this breakup. The intention was to do this the best possible way, and we're still trying to walk through this, essentially biting back our triggers at this point, going like, okay, so we're going to set that stuff aside. We're going to do our own work again. We're getting out of this relationship because obviously we can't do our own work inside the relationship. Triggered too much,
Yeah.
too much baggage, and you know, I'm grieving this connection that I have with this woman that I love dearly. I've made myself sick from infidelity, um, and we're trying to do everything we can to honor each other's needs. I want her to be happy with what she needs. She wants me to be happy with what I need. If I need to explore polyamory, she really wants me to be able to do that. If I need to do shadow work so that I can figure out who the fuck I am and what I need and want, I want to do that. I want her to find somebody who can love her in the way that she needs it the most. And I want her to discover her shadow stuff. And I'm like dying inside because it feels like one more failure to me. Because obviously I'm still working with people pleasing dynamics. Obviously, I haven't done everything I can do because she's unhappy and she's in pain and I feel awful. And then we break up, we make it final, and there I am looking in the face of her moving on, same day. And it's like, oh, I guess I really am not that special. It was that easy just to replace me, just like that. And that, because, here, as a people pleaser, here I am. All I want is acceptance and love. That's really at the heart of what's driving me.
Well,
and my motivation.
Every human, you just
every human. I mean, yeah, sure, but I have to put this in the personal context. But yes, and now I've failed on multiple counts. And at that particular moment in time, the energy was, okay, well, this is easy to leave and easy to avoid because I don't want to look at this. So I move out to the little shed that I made for her son at the beginning of COVID. I'm literally living in an 8x12 box with a loft bed, a microwave, a sink,
the bare essentials,
a mini fridge, a couch, my TV and computer, and that's where I stay most of the time. I make special arrangements to go into the house after all of this because Dina doesn't want to be around me. She feels unsafe around me, and it's
And I was completely avoiding. So he was avoiding physically by removing himself. I was avoiding emotionally by, okay, you don't want me, you want other women, okay, then I'm moving on. And I just squashed all the feelings I had for him, so I thought. And it's classic projection. Put them onto this person I hadn't even met yet, okay? It's easy to take that NRE, new relationship energy, and let that feel like it's bigger than life. I mean, pretty much you're on drugs. I was on drugs, my own drugs, and putting all of that onto this other person because the pain of losing this, again, was so painful I couldn't bear to feel it. I compensated. I just came up with this solution, and then I moved out, and we weren't really speaking to each other except for when we absolutely have to. I mean, he helped me do some of the moving of the heavier things. It wasn't like we were being unkind to each other, but we were both very, very on guard. And I was all focused on this new shiny relationship, and when would I meet this person who had this thing for attracting men who evaporate, and it wasn't turning out. He canceled plans to come meet me, etc., etc. He kept saying things like, "I'm really uncomfortable with Robin still being in your life," but Robin was in my life even when we weren't speaking. During the late summer of 2020, Oregon experienced wildfires, and they came close to home. And he knew I would be panicking about how the heck do we evacuate. It was a terrifying time. And he called me one day and said, "Look, I know you're scared. I know what you're going through. I got this covered. I've got camping supplies, food, water. I will pick you up in the truck if we have to evacuate. you won't have to figure this out on your own. When it counted, when I really needed him, he showed me he still loved me through acts of service, which is one of his primary love languages. He was there for me, and it wasn't a, you know, you will then owe me. There was nothing. There was just, I love you. I'll make sure you're safe. You know, like in disaster movies,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
what you really care about comes out. It was like that.
You know, I'm wondering at this point if we shouldn't just kind of tie this up right now.
For now,
and come back at it, because
it's already long.
we're already at 50 minutes, and there are so many different things we could go into at this point.
But could we maybe see if we could wrap it up just for? Do you think we could? Like what's happened since? And then we can edit it. We can break it into 2 parts maybe. But while we're energetically on this.
Well, I was thinking that maybe we could like come back to it after our next stage in the morning.
Oh, like get on with things and come back. Because I'll probably have to sit on the toilet again today.
Right.
You know? I mean, gravity power right here.
I think this is a good spot to kind of wrap it up, and just I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to take the next maybe a couple 3 minutes each, and if there's any pertinent stuff that applies to where we are at or what we're journeying through in the first 6.5 years.
Oh, okay. So
anything else that's pertinent, that's alive, that you want to share about that?
We're sort of giving you the lay of the land, the chronological trajectory of what happened. Looking back on that time then, what I didn't know then that I am able to know now with the wisdom of hindsight is that everything played out, was even orchestrated by our selves, capital S, souls, whatever you want to call it, the part of us that's bigger than what's sitting here on the toilet right now. That there was an orchestration, not a script, because we're here to do an improv thing, this human life. But there was a benevolent, guiding, orchestrating force going on that cared more about his growth, my growth as individuals, and also together, than our comfort, our happiness, our convenience, our sense of safety and security, our certainty. All of those were not as important as what it took for us to face what we had to face and to grow. Yeah. And that doesn't end. Yeah. There's no arrival. Chapter 2 will not show arrival, it will show update. Right.
I think one of the things that I wanted to share about our first 6.5 years together is the amount of time and energy and money that we spent actually working to gain the tools that would give us the best possible chance to really work through what we were dealing with, whether it was subconscious or consciously dealing with. And that was when I came into the relationship initially, I had spent most of my life inadvertently studying and philosophizing across many different belief systems, simply because I didn't come from a church. I came from parents who were members of the local Theosophical Society and who were open-minded and progressive, back in the 70s. And they wanted me to have an experience that was much larger than just, anything that would even come close to monotheism. And, so I already came with an open mind and an interest in exploring spiritual concepts. And Dina came into it having been a big fan of David Dita and Jeff Brown and Edgar Cayce, and following 30 years of Christianity. And from there, not only did she share beliefs and information with me about these different levels of Gnostic understanding, but we discovered shamanism together. We went through the medicine wheel twice with each other in the same IU with the same guide. We did the group coaching with our coach Marshall Bircher. We did the Salem Playback Theater as
Nonviolent communication.
Nonviolent communication. We went through mediator training together. We've gone through hypnotherapy training together. We've done the Gottman Institute workshop stuff together. We've done multiple different communication styles together. We've discovered and gone through and played with the Enneagram and Myers-Briggs, astrology. I mean, we have gone through great lengths to try and understand each other. We have done existential kink, trying to look at our shadow work together. God, what else?
There's more.
There's just all sorts of stuff. We've looked at Dr. Gabor Mate's stuff. We've taken a look at Rebel Wisdom podcasts.
Presence process.
Brene Brown, Presence Process.
The work,
Byron Katie. I mean, we have gone through all sorts of
we
stuff.
We have not slouched on anything to do with self-actualization, shadow work, healing, insight, trauma, facing.
Even most recently, I've started discovering how using cannabis can allow me to sink down into a place where I can have dialogue with my subconscious while having my consciousness itself engage in a way which allows me to integrate. It's and this, this is not a journey of oh, we got it figured out. This has been truly a journey of trial and error and trial and error again.
Yeah.
So, as we continue to as we stop, for a few minutes here to go ahead and do a little bit of stuff that we need to do this morning for ourselves.
Yeah, we'll come back and update.
Yeah,
the latest chapter.
Yeah, we'll take it from where a year apart ended up morphing into coming back together, and what it's been like since then, and the discoveries and realizations, some of which you've actually witnessed for the first time here already on this video.
Right.
Which in and of itself is rather profound. We'll go into more of that.
We'll come back. Hang in there.
All right, so part 2 to come. Bye, guys. We'll see you here in a few.
Bye-bye.